Have you ever wondered why even the smallest child knows how to say, "That's not fair"? Or why adults, no matter how educated or experienced, instinctively feel the need to justify themselves when their behavior is questioned? It's not just about emotion or disagreement. It's something deeper, more ancient. In this chapter, C.S. Lewis suggests that behind every quarrel lies a remarkable truth, the presence of a shared moral law, one we appeal to even when we break it. From playground scuffles to political disputes, from sibling arguments to international conflicts, there's an unspoken understanding of what is right and what is wrong. But where does that come from? Is it merely a product of culture, or something woven into the very fabric of human nature? Let's listen then to Lewis's gentle but provocative invitation to rediscover the law of human nature, not as a burden, but as a signpost, a quiet, insistent voice within each of us that says, "You were made for something more." Rather than begin with abstract theory, Lewis starts in the place we all know well, the friction of everyday life. Quarrels, whether between children or co-workers, spouses or nations, people don't simply express displeasure. They accuse. They say, "You promised." "Oh, that's not yours," not because they're upset, but because they believe a line has been crossed, a rule has been broken. And here's the striking part. The person being accused almost never responds with, "I don't believe in fairness." Instead, they defend themselves. "You misunderstood. That wasn't what I meant." It's different this time. What this reveals is profound. Both sides are appealing to a standard they both assume exists and is valid. This, Lewis argues, is evidence of an invisible but deeply real law. A moral code written into every human being, regardless of culture, education, or background. He calls it the law of human nature, not to be confused with the laws of physics or biology, which govern bodies and organisms. This law governs the heart. It is the compass we were born with. We may ignore it, but we rarely deny it. And even when we break it, we still feel its pull. What sets this law apart is that, unlike gravity or aging, it can be disobeyed. And that disobedience is precisely what makes morality meaningful. When we fall short of this law, we feel something more than social disapproval. We feel guilt. Not because we broke a rule someone else made up, but because we've broken something real, something inside. Of course, Lewis anticipates the argument. Isn't morality just a matter of culture? Don't values shift across time and societies? He concedes that yes, details differ. One culture may place loyalty to tribe above all. Another may emphasize universal compassion. But the core remains the same. No civilization celebrates cowardice. No society honors betrayal. No age has admired selfishness. The details vary, but the foundation endures. To make the point vivid, Lewis imagines a society that applauds men for fleeing from battle or for betraying those who've been kind to them. Such a world, he says, would be as absurd as one where 2 and 2 made 5. But here lies the deeper question. If we all know this law, why do we keep breaking it? And this is where Lewis moves from observation to introspection. He says it plainly. We all fall short. No one keeps the law perfectly. And even more telling, we make excuses for our failings, not for our virtues. No one explains why they told the truth or showed mercy. But when we lie, when we're impatient, when we ignore a need, we explain. I was exhausted. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. I had no choice. These excuses aren't just about avoiding consequences. They are about avoiding admitting that we've broken something sacred, that we've let ourselves down. This, Lewis suggests, is the most honest place to begin. Not by pretending we're good, but by acknowledging that we know the good and still fall short of it. Not with shame, but with clarity. Because in that clarity, we begin to see not only the truth of ourselves, but the path that leads us toward who we were meant to be. This, Lewis says, is the key. The excuses we make are not proof that morality is optional. They are evidence that we believe the law is real. We want to see ourselves as decent people, not because society demands it, but because something deep inside us does. Something in us insists that we are meant to be better, and when we are not, the soul stirs in discomfort. And from this recognition, Lewis distills the entire chapter into two simple but profound conclusions. Truths so universal, yet so often overlooked. First, all human beings, regardless of time or culture, carry a deep-seated conviction that we ought to behave in a certain way. Second, none of us, in practice, fully live up to that conviction. These two truths, he says, are not philosophical curiosities. They are the foundation of all clear thinking about ourselves and the universe we live in. Because to understand the world rightly, we must first understand the moral tension that defines human life. We know the good, and yet we fail to do it. And so the argument circles back, beautifully, inevitably, to where it began, with the quarrel. Quarreling means trying to show that the other man is in the wrong, and there would be no sense in trying to do that, unless you and he had some sort of agreement as to what right and wrong are. Because we accuse, not because we are angry animals, but because we are moral beings. Each complaint, each accusation, is an appeal to a higher standard, a shared expectation that transcends personal desire. We are not just reacting, we are referring to something. This shared moral law, Lewis insists, is not taught by schools or shaped by governments. It is already in us. Morality is not an invention, it is a memory, something ancient, something intrinsic, like a song we once knew by heart, but have forgotten how to sing. And even when we try to deny it, we act as though it exists. Children cry it's not fair before they can define fairness. Adults make excuses not for their goodness, but for their failings. Cultures may disagree on how best to love, but no culture teaches that love doesn't matter. The melody may change, but the rhythm remains. This is why the law of human nature matters, because it reminds us that morality is not a ladder we climb to become better people. It is a mirror showing us who we already are and who we're falling short of being. And so in the end, Lewis doesn't ask us to become perfect. He invites us to be honest, to admit the law is there, to acknowledge that we fall short, and perhaps most importantly, to stop pretending we don't care. Because to feel the weight of that law, to grieve when we break it, to long to do better, that is not weakness. That is the beginning of wisdom. It is not shame that defines us. It is this longing for moral integrity, this deep, unshakable desire to be true to the law inside us. And that desire does not come from social pressure. It comes from within, from that still, small voice that whispers, "You are made for more." Lewis does not use this moment to scold. He invites us into truth, not to punish ourselves, but to see ourselves clearly. Because when we break the law, something inside us notices. We call it guilt, conscience, discomfort. But what if it is more than that? What if it is memory, the soul remembering what it was meant to be? We believe in decency so much, we feel the rule pressing on us, that we cannot bear to face the fact that we are breaking it. In these words, Lewis doesn't just connect morality with behavior, he connects it with identity. We were not conditioned to care about right and wrong. We were created with the capacity to know and choose. That's not learned, that's built in. Think back to the last time you told a small lie, or put yourself first. The ache you felt afterward was more than guilt. It was grief. Grief for the gap between who you were and who you know you could be. And that grief is not a weakness, it's a gift. It means the law hasn't died in you. It means something holy still lives within. So Lewis isn't merely describing morality, he's describing you, the real you, the one who still believes in fairness, the one who still wants to be kind, honest, brave. Even when you fall short, the fact that you care, that you regret, that you explain, is proof that the law is alive. And if it's alive, then so are you. And that brings us to the heart of his message, one that echoes quietly through the entire chapter. These, then, are the 2 points I wanted to make. First, that human beings all over the earth have this curious idea that they ought to behave in a certain way and cannot really get rid of it. Secondly, that they do not in fact behave in that way. This, perhaps more than anything else, is what Lewis wants us to understand. We know what is right, and yet we fail to do it. It's a truth so universal it requires no footnotes, no charts, just the courage to look inward. In every culture, every home, every person, there lives the same tension. We carry a moral compass inside, but our lives often drift off course. The very fact that we feel guilt, regret, or the need to explain ourselves is proof. We know when we're not living up to the standard we believe in. But Lewis doesn't present this as condemnation. He's not wagging a finger. He's opening a window, a space for honesty, because once we admit that this gap exists between what we know and what we do, we're no longer trapped by illusions of righteousness. No matter how accomplished we are, no matter how good our intentions, we all know what it feels like to have fallen short of being fair, generous, patient, or true. And this gap, Lewis says, is not merely a flaw in our character. It's evidence of something deeper, that morality is not man-made. If it were, we could change it like fashion. But we can't. We can walk away from religion. We can ignore national laws. But we cannot outrun the law of human nature. It stays. It stays when no one is watching. It stays when we try to dismiss it. It even stays when we break it and feel its weight in silence. And perhaps that's the most hopeful part. Because if the law remains within us, even when we fail, then so does the possibility of returning to it, of remembering who we were meant to be, of becoming once again the person who knows the melody and is brave enough to hum it aloud. And so, as Lewis draws the chapter to a close, he shifts our gaze from behavior to being, from what we do to who we are. Because behind all the excuses, behind every ache of conscience, lies a much deeper question. What kind of creature knows what is good, longs to do it, and yet fails? What kind of being carries such weight inside the soul? Lewis is drawing our attention to this because he wants us to reflect, not only on morality, but on what it says about our nature. His answer is not shouted, but it's there, quiet and powerful. Human beings are made for more than instinct and impulse. We are moral beings, not perfect, but aware, not righteous, but responsible. And that awareness, that silent ache we carry after every compromise, is not meant to crush us. It is meant to awaken us. It is not guilt that Lewis points toward, but clarity. Because clarity, even when uncomfortable, is the doorway to freedom. When we stop performing goodness and start acknowledging our longing for it, we begin to glimpse who we really are and who we were meant to be. It's easy to read this and feel exposed, but Lewis is not here to shame. He's here to hold up a mirror so we might finally see clearly, and in seeing, begin to change. So if we all believe in this law, and yet none of us follow it perfectly, what do we do next? Lewis doesn't condemn. He doesn't offer quick fixes. He simply invites us to be honest, to admit that our failures, our excuses, even our longing to be decent, all point to something deeper. We weren't made to wander without guidance. We were made to follow something real, something good, something greater than ourselves. And that, perhaps, is the most hopeful truth in the chapter. That the law is not just a reminder of our shortcomings, it is a signpost toward our true nature. In the next chapter, Lewis will take us further into this tension, the gap between who we are and who we know we should be. Is there hope for such a gap? Is there meaning in that inner struggle? And if we are not perfect, but still drawn to perfection, what or who might we be drawn to? Let's carry that question forward. And if this chapter resonated with you, take a quiet moment to reflect. When was the last time you felt the weight of that law? Not as a burden, but as a quiet reminder of who you truly are. What story did it tell you about your heart? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Let's explore this together. Not just what the law is, but what it might be leading us toward.